Good afternoon, everyone. The reason why we got started a little late here is I had the CP World History Zoom up, and I was getting upset. I'm like, where is everyone? They trying to do like some kind of mutiny on me by not joining Zoom. And I'm sitting there, and then it finally dawned on me that I probably had the wrong Zoom up, which I did. So, on that note, you guys know that this is a discussion day, but I still want to do kind of what I've been doing, and that is throw up a question from the AP classroom. And the question's on the board. Which of the following most clearly differentiates the 16th century from the previous period in world history? So go ahead and take a look at that. Answer, please, in the chat function. And I'm going to take attendance real quick. All right. They keep coming in. Take maybe 10 seconds or so to finish up. Establishment of nation states in the Americas, extension of sugar production in the Americas, use of steamships, interest in Asian spice trade, or existence of slave trade. Okay, so let's see what we got. Correct answer for sure. I know what it is. I'm not going to give you, I want to see how many got it correct. So we got hey, Hannah, I noticed that Lucy's not on here. Can you see if she can get on, or if you can?
Yeah, I messaged her. Or I messaged you, sorry, but she told me to tell you that her
She in
computer.
the same house as you?
Yeah, she's downstairs. We just go in separate rooms, so like for these discussions, we're not like overlapping.
Yeah. I'm just going through here, and no one has the correct answer yet. Literally not a single person. Whoa. All right, so you guys pay attention to the screen. Yeah, this is the reason why I picked this question, because I was looking at it earlier and I was like, wow, this is challenging. Which is referenced by the fact that nobody got it correct. Okay, so let's go through an explanation of this real quick. It says, which of the following most clearly differentiates the 16th century from the previous period? Nation states. The establishment of nation states did not happen in the 16th century. The establishment of nation states wouldn't happen until the 1700s, really, and then after that, really the 1800s in Latin America. So that was a little after that. The extension of sugar production to the Americas, that was basically mercantilism. So getting raw materials and that would be easily confused with the slave trade as well, which we haven't talked about yet. But um, that was a difference. And then because of sugar being made in the Americas and then brought to Europe, that's kind of the Columbian Exchange. Steamships, not till the 1800s. Interest in Asian spice trade had been there for a long time already. And I think A and E were the most popular answers. The existence of slave trade didn't differentiate. It was just different. Slave trade had existed in Africa, in the Roman Empire, in other empires for a long, long, long time. So it was just the version of the slave trade in the 1500s that changed. We'll talk about that more later also. Okay, but all right. So we can't do worse than that next time. Class will get better from here. Just so hopefully you guys are listening to the explanation as well. Okay. All right. So gonna hide that for next period, and going to head over to the old Canvas page where we click on the modules. Who's messaging me? Oh, okay. And when I go to the modules, just a reminder before we start our discussion. Okay, 918, notes from discussion and questions from the outside circle, upload by end of class. It shouldn't say copy. This is where you're going to upload your notes. For some odd reason, I get like 5 people that don't do it every time. And it's like, you're giving away free points, okay? The other thing is, everything else that in here is just what I had last week, pretty much the same, okay? Other thing, though, about the discussion today, and I want you guys, hopefully you guys are listening. When you're in the outer circle and you're about to ask your question, I want you to identify where you got that question from, whether it was from notes, my notes, like PowerPoint, like notes in class, whether it was from the textbook, or whether it was like a combination of, let's say, like different chapters, so that when people are answering, we don't get the whole like silent 45-second look, awkwardly looking at each other if we were in the room type moment. People can actually go and try to find the answers, and that might help facilitate discussion and bring down some of the nervousness, or maybe what we call tension, so that you're not nervous to participate. Okay. Last but not least, before we get started, just a reminder, I need to move your faces. Okay, here we go. Period 7-8. So inner circle was the asterisk. The number sign was the outer. Okay. I have that paper printed off right there, so I know who's supposed to do what. So we should be set here. Any other questions before we begin?
Hey, I'm sorry. I have a unrelated question, but I'm gonna ask it before I forget it. Where and how do we like pay the fees for the exam?
Okay. Did I give you the email address of that the other day of who to email?
Maybe my mom got it, but I didn't get it.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do this in the old chat area. Okay, the fancy chat area here. I'm going to put in an email address. Okay, this person, it's their job to figure that out. That's a little bit above my pay grade. Okay, Mr. Hodson, that's what he does. And if you shoot him a quick email, he'll help you out. Okay. Griffin Moore asks, do the inner circle and the outer circle have to take notes? Yes, sir. While we are not in class, in person, I need everybody to take notes. Good question.
You didn't send it. Like, it's not.
Didn't send it. I just sent it to Griffin. I'm so sorry. Let's send it to everybody. US. There we go. All right. You guys ready to rock and roll? Have a little fun here. A little discussion action. Everybody gets to participate, and this should be an enjoyable time of the week for you. I'm gonna make this larger so I can see everyone's face a little bit bigger. It's fun. And all right. So whoever wants to lead it off, just remember when you intro a question to say where you got it from. Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure I got this from the textbook. And my first question is, explain the main factor in the creation of the labor systems.
So the labor systems were, I think, a pretty direct result of the rising agriculture and especially in cash crops, like in new like cultivated lands that have been found by like new traders. And so with this new land, these like kingdoms want to try and colonize it and make money off of it. So they would plant these crops like sugarcane, for example, or cotton later on. And so to like keep these like crops like up and running, they needed more people and more hands. So they needed to import more people from different places. And like this really just like facilitated the new labor system or like slave trade.
Adding on to that, also in the Americas, disease wiped out a bunch of the native population, so they had to import slaves from Africa in order to get more labor.
Adding on to that, the labor systems also helped pave the way for the triangle trade, where Africa would send slaves, and then they would take the cash crops from America to Europe, and Europe would give some of the stuff to Africa.
So I have a question, and this is from the notes that Mr. Burnett gave us, and it is, what were the cons of the Columbian Exchange?
I think the main cons of the Columbian Exchange was deforestation, eradication, and diseases being spread to the native and indigenous populations of the Americas, and the start of the slave trade throughout Africa to the Americas.
I agree with
Kaylee, we cannot hear you.
Okay, could you hear that?
Nope. Can you do it again?
Okay. Yes, I can do it again. Okay, so I think the main cons of the Columbian Exchange were deforestation and diseases being spread, because the deforestation affected the ecosystems and the environment of these lands, and also diseases being spread killed a lot of the natives and other peoples, which affected the population, and it decreased population throughout the society, which could affect later generations.
Okay, my question is from two different chapters. So, compare and contrast the inequalities between the slaves and women in the Tang Dynasty. Can you repeat that, please? Yeah, compare and contrast the inequalities between the slaves and the women in the Tang Dynasty.
Late Tang Dynasty, early Song Dynasty. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm in a mood to answer the question because it sounds like an interesting question. So, women were not treated as property like the slaves that were brought over from during the Atlantic slave trade. And women, yes, they were relegated to the house through using foot binding, but chattel slavery and the fact that slaves, men, women, children, were bought and sold at a price was a drastically different labor system and much more crushing to a entire continent, taking away the population of that continent. For 200 years, they wouldn't catch up, which I think even though women still to this day lack rights in China, it's a very different type of labor system that we're referring to. Now, that's a much more complex answer than we're probably ready for. We have to read that chapter, Brooke, probably on the Atlantic slave trade before we'd be ready to answer that question. So, although it's a very good question. All right, let's move on though. Brooke, you get credit for that, and someone asked the next one.
I can. What resources were traded in the Columbian Exchange, and explain why they are more valuable in different areas?
Some resources traded were diseases, tons of grains, and food, and they were valuable to places that didn't have these kinds of resources.
Also, adding on to that, the Europeans traded cattle and pigs and sheep and stuff, and I believe a little bit of horses. And this helped some of the Native Americans with just their meat and some other food products.
Adding on, those resources were valuable because they weren't like natural to those areas, and they had to get them from somewhere else. So that's why they incorporated trade.
Importation of food led to a huge like population increase in Europe and Asia.
I had a question. What made it possible for Europe to become such a powerhouse in international trade?
Where did you get that from, Lily?
Oh, sorry, that's mostly from the textbook.
I think it was because they like revolutionized like shipbuilding. So while other countries, or just like exploring in general, so while other countries weren't trying as hard to get to different areas, they focused a lot on like getting to Asia and in different ways too, which ended up leading them to the Americas too. So
Yeah, I agree with that. Like they had motives like to one like spread their religion, but also to, like you said, get new trade routes to Asia and China for their goods.
So my question is from the textbook and the notes, and it's what do you think, which innovation do you think was the most influential to the Spanish or the Portuguese?
I think that the invention of the caravel, the like ships that they built, was very important for Portuguese because it allowed them to, like, it innovated travel by boat because of how they built them.
I think
Yeah,
that
and also
firearms.
you
I
can go.
think that firearms greatly impacted them too because they were able to take over large groups easily with firearms because the large groups weren't able to counterattack the firearms because they didn't have any shields that could like protect them from them.
I have a question. This is from the notes we took. Um, in your opinion, what were Europe's main motives for European exploration?
I think one really big one was that they wanted to spread their religion.
also they wanted to like trade for spices and um especially like in the Americas, silver and just a lot of trading.
I think they also wanted to adapt other cultures' ideas, therefore they could like improve their manufacturing and just their society overall.
Okay, I got a question from the notes. Based off of that, why did the Europeans actually want to spread their religion? Like, what was the benefit of spreading their religion to other places?
Can you say that again?
What was the benefit of the Europeans spreading their religion to other places?
I think they really just wanted to expand their personal empires and spread their beliefs as much as possible for greedy reasons, honestly, more than anything else.
And also, more people converting could mean more people donating to the church, which, and like, the church was a really big part of like European society. So that money would just like really strengthen their society and like the role that church played in it.
So I have a question,
Hey,
and this is
Lucy, I'm going to pause you real quick on that, okay? Just to add to that answer, remember the rivalry with the Muslims that had been occurred for 500 more years, and also the Muslims had just taken over Constantinople from the Christians, the Byzantine Empire, and so that's going to definitely affect the idea to spread religion. And then, as we'll learn about in the next couple of weeks, you also had the Protestant Reformation, which is going to cause another massive spirit of missionaryism for the Roman Catholics. Just didn't want to leave you with an incomplete thought there. That's a good question, Jackson. Lucy, go ahead.
okay. So my question I got from the notes that Mr. Brunette gave us, and my question is, which European country do you think was the luckiest when exploring, and why?
I believe the Spanish was the first. Was the luckiest because they were the first one to discover the new land, and since they was the first one to discover the new lands, they had like more opportunity and more land to conquer.
I have a question. How was East Asia affected by English, French, and Dutch exploration? And I think that can be found in the notes that we took.
In China, there was a boost in silver and gold from the Americas.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. How was East Asia affected by English, French, and Dutch exploration?
There was an influence in trade.
That one makes me nervous because that was directly off one of the slides from the notes. So that's a
Uh,
go.
East Asia was like for India, they opened their port, and because of that, the British and French, they like gradually conquered them. And for Japan, they closed it because they didn't want to interact with them. Like they closed off their area.
Am I allowed to ask another question, or are we? Okay. Um, what was the purpose of the British and Dutch East India Companies? Oh, that's from the textbook.
Well, I think a big part of it was them just going out for their like certain like kingdom or country and just going out and like making these new like trade routes and finding these new ways to like connect their ports with other places and just like getting like finding new ways for them to produce money.
Yeah, I think it was related to profit because people could like invest in the company and get a share of their profits.
My question is, what was the reason for King Ferdinand to sponsor Christopher Columbus expedition? And I got it from the notes yesterday.
Say that one more time, please.
My question was, what was the reason for King Ferdinand to sponsor Christopher Columbus expedition?
Anybody want to take a crack at that? Let's give you a hint. Was there another country, nation state close by that was particularly doing something that might have caused Ferdinand and Isabella to want to try to explore?
Yeah, I think it was Harry the Navigator. He discovered the Cape, and like he was the Portugal explorer. So yeah, I think that's why, because Henry got fame and like glory from it, and that helped the Portugal. So I think that's why Spain sponsored Christopher, so that they can like get land and like be like famous and have like glory, something like that.
Okay, I have a question. Did disease in the Americas have an effect on African people?
Yeah, it did because so many people were crammed into the slave trade boats that if one of them was sick, disease was like almost impossible to not spread. So tons of sick slaves would come over and they would just throw them overboards so that they wouldn't infect any more people.
All right, I have another question. I think it would be from the notes. So how would the economy how would the economy be different today if the Columbian Exchange never occurred?
I'm guessing that the interconnection between or like the global economy itself probably wouldn't be as developed and as connected as it would be today, because I feel like this is a really crucial point for making connections globally into new areas, not just in one continent, like not just in the Middle East, but like spreading out more to like the northern or yeah to the more like the north and like the North America.
Okay, Vivian Taylor asks, in the textbook and notes, they mention how navigational tools improved and helped majorly. In what ways did they evolve or change specifically?
Can you repeat that, please?
Navigational tools helped, first off, the Portuguese and the Spanish, and then the English, the French, and the Dutch explore. Which navigational tools were important, and how did they change, or how did the Europeans change them to make them more useful in global exploration? Come on, Inner Circle. Step up to the plate.
A compass, it was useful because it helped them like know which direction they were heading, and I don't know how they changed it or like improved it though.
Well, I was thinking about how map making and like the printing press that really evolved, and how like better maps helped with their navigation. Okay, so I have a question. Sorry, this is on my sister's computer, but my question is, explain the Catholic competition between Spain and Portugal. I found this in the PowerPoints, by the way.
If nobody wants to answer that, I have another question. Since nobody wants to.
I don't think anyone wants to say the word Treaty of Tordesillas out loud, but that's what we're looking for, because that was when the Pope jumped in and doctored up a treaty between the two nation states that were developing and becoming very wealthy so that they wouldn't go to war, so that his two biggest allies, especially in the Protestant Reformation, wouldn't go to war with each other. So take it away, Lucy.
Okay, so my question is, this is mainly just from like your opinion, but do you think that exploring the New World would be any different if instead of Spain finding it first, like if another country found it?
I mean, I think a lot could be different. One, because the place could have a different religion. Two, they could have different political beliefs. Three, they might not have brought slaves over. So then, America wouldn't have been built on slavery, and, that would have had that foundation laid. And maybe that civilization, depending on who it was, wouldn't have accidentally or purposefully eradicated native and indigenous peoples.
The nations going for like the land could have different intentions of what they wanted to do with the land.
Lucy, my favorite question is, what if the Chinese would have found the Americas first and they were close? That would have changed everything quite a bit. Okay, does anybody else want to ask a question, or else I'm going to shut this down now?
I do. Okay, so my question was, what is the definition of mercantilism and what are some examples of it? And I found it in the textbook, but not in the textbook, but the PowerPoint. Yeah.
In the notes from Mr. Burnett, the definition was like bullion is key, charges tariffs and collected from your colonies, and like an example of it is like um an example would be like the British or England, they would like collect their taxes from the New World, something like that.
I have a question. Can I ask how everyone's week was, since nobody's really talking and it's been kind of quiet this whole discussion?
You could, Grace, but we're at about 5 minutes, and I want everybody to be able to have a chance to upload their notes, okay?
Okay.
Great question. I would assume everyone is a little bit tired, especially after having a 4-day week last week and then jumping into the old 5-dayer here. But what I'm going to have you do, great responses here. It's nice. I want you guys to upload your notes, and then if you were in the outer circle, upload your questions. Do that now so you're not late for your next class. We've got maybe 4 minutes left. Weather changed. So enjoy this fall weather. And get outside, do something for yourself the next couple days. Don't stare at the computer screen too much this weekend. All right. And the notes, I'm going to just share the screen real quick here for you. The notes for next week. So your quiz on Monday is over pages 427 to 450, chapter 19. Okay. You're free to leave, folks. A little quiet, but not terrible. It's okay. Enjoy your weekend.